All right, welcome to this reoccurring session that we've been covering. This is Brian Potts with Third Stage, talking about what can you do in the current times regarding your technology, your business within the current environment. We recently talked about, adopting to the idea of working from home. We've talked about business upswings, downswings, changing demand, impacted supply chains. But one thing we haven't really talked in depth about is the concept of data. Should be of immediate concern, and there's a lot of considerations with data in general, but also with this, the current epidemic that's going around. So today I've invited Daryl Crockett to join us. Daryl's one of the leaders in the understanding of the data environment, concepts of data cleansing, migration, and also security. So Daryl, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Maybe we could start. I just wanted to get your impression of, I know we've talked a little bit in the past, and you've had some interesting viewpoints on this current trend, what we're seeing now. What are things that some organizations can and should be doing right now in regards to data, specifically given the current change in global environment recently?
Wow, yeah, that's a really great topic, and I certainly think a lot about it and talk a lot about it lately. I think we have to stand back and say, what's really going on within our organizations? What has changed? So there are some key points here that are notable. One is, obviously, we're all working from home more. Most of the workforce, particularly in the IT world, is at home using their own local home internet providers and network, okay? The second thing that's happening is that they may be more distracted and they may not have access in the same kind of time frames or ease of access that they would have if they were in the office. So this is particularly important if you think about security, right? You think about data security just generally. We are now shifting from that very nice cocoon that hopefully our CISOs and our InfoSec teams have put together for us, and our hosted service providers. And they're created a cocoon of a model where most of the people are coming in from the office and a portion of the people are working remotely. That's been all flipped now. So now we're stressing the systems, the VPNs, and all of those Cisco nodes that allow us to kind of come in from the outside. We're stressing those endpoints beyond what they were designed to, the capacities that they were of the company's infrastructure itself. We're certainly stressing, as you and I talked about in our struggles of kind of getting online. I think this is try number 3 to get online together. We're certainly seeing the stress that it's on the home internet providers and those nodes that come in, and our laptops and all those tools. So I want you to think about generally, and the audience to think about generally, that we've now started to use our system for things that they weren't intended for. And they certainly haven't been tested for the load and also for the security risks that's present today.
Yeah, so for those of us who aren't in the data world, from a business perspective, what are the risks that we're now have opened up with the entire workforce working from home?
Okay, so the biggest number one risk is that the laptops and devices that people are using to access their work systems and their work email and their work databases are limited by the security protection that they have installed on their laptops. So think about it. If your McAfee is outdated, if your Windows operating system on the laptop that you're using at home is outdated, that's going to cause increased risk associated with people breaking in that way. If you're sharing, there are many, many settings when you access your home network, when you get on to your cable modem, whatever you're using to get onto your internet, to get onto work. There are so many settings in there. And if you haven't made a great password, if your neighbor, you lent to them the ability to, use your internet once, or if your kid gave it to his friends, and then for some reason he shared it, or they're online and sucking up your bandwidth, but also you forgot to check that little box that says you don't agree to share the contents of your connected laptop with all the other people on your network. Understand that the people in your network in this case are the people that are connected to your Wi-Fi. Okay, so there's a little setting that when it comes on that says I agree to share or not share. Some people don't know to unclick that, in which case now anybody that's on the network can share in your music, which is probably an okay thing, but they can also share in perhaps any sensitive files and emails and anything that's crossing in that network. So anybody on your network is at risk. One of the best ways to eliminate the risk, it's simple, but it reduces risk, is go ahead and take a half an hour and figure out how to change the password on your router and see how many people start screaming, because that will allow you to disconnect all of the devices that are out there, our Alexa and any other connected devices that we have. That will bring down the use of your bandwidth, will increase the productivity and the fastness of the network that you're on. And then also it will kick off anybody that might be using the network that you didn't realize was using your network. So that's really key. And then also, I guess if I were to continue looking at from a perspective and systems, they have to make sure that they're pushing out really a lot of messages to tell people that are working on the network these things. Be aware, you're not alone on your network at home. You're connected to us, but you're also connected to your homework. Change your password, and then look for phishing schemes. Phishing schemes, phishing, PH, not phishing like a pole, but phishing with data, for data, that is on the rise like you wouldn't believe right now. They are sending emails from Zoom, from Outlook, from Microsoft, from every single imaginable platform that you might be getting on. They're sending extremely credible looking emails asking you to connect and provide information so that you can verify, validate your connection and your user credentials. From there, they're going to steal that information and then use that to penetrate other systems that you may have access to, including your work system.
Got it. So yeah, I've received several of those in just the last couple of days. So now it's no longer a matter, because we always talk about protecting your own data through your home network, and work is protected at work. But now that people are bringing work home, that it just opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for, call it, data thieves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would go so far as to say, if you're not expecting an email directing you to do something or providing you to go for a link, providing a link that you're supposed to click on, I would go so far as to say you need to make a separate email back to the user that sent it to you, asking them to verify that they sent an email and that you should be taking action item. And to groups and companies out there, I would enforce that kind of two-factor communication, two-way communication for them to do anything, because they're going to send the emails that will look like they come from your company, your employer, and they're also going to maybe even include the names of people that you've interacted with, or have email addresses that are spoofed from people that you work with. So they'll penetrate the network, get a list of email addresses, which frankly they can do through LinkedIn. They can do in a lot of different ways to get that information. They can even build them. In other words, take first, last name list, try a dot in between and see if that works. There are programs that salespeople use that do that all the time, that auto-generate based on conventions of how email addresses are built. And then they can spoof those and see if they work on you. So that's just an amazing nuance to working from home that's occurring right now.
Wow. Yeah, thanks for, I thought about that, but not to that degree. So there's been, over the last several years, there's been major breaches and hacks in corporate environments. Are you seeing the potential for increase in that? Are people kind of calming down on that? Where are the trends going in this current pandemic, call it, in terms of major, corporate data breaches? Not, we outlined that through home could be another one, but are we seeing new openings or interest in that regard?
We're certainly seeing an increase, an uptick in the activity. I think that they sense the bad actors, as we say. I think they sense that there's less security on folks. So it's imagining like if I'm in a castle, okay, and this is my moat around my castle, okay, and I'm guarding it, and most of my people are using the jewels of my kingdom inside my moated and my castle walls. I've got a reasonable structure of security around them. Let's think, for instance, if everybody took home those jewels and is now sitting in the woods and the fields around outside of my castle, the ability to protect that goes down significantly. And that's the situation that we're dealing with. So I believe that there are increases, we're seeing those, and probably a lot more successful increases, which sadly we won't find out about for quite a while, where they can put in their Trojans, their remote activated Trojans, which are called rats, which they put in now while people aren't looking, through emails, through access that they're probably gaining today with our dispersed workforce. And then those will later be triggered to go into and unfold later and expose themselves and go in and do their damage and access the data. I do think that one of the really important aspects to the environment today, if you think about the geoeconomics of what's going on, right now we have our a number of state-sponsored terrorism, cyber terrorism efforts that go on by large countries who really devote some resources within their countries to disrupting American business and stealing American IP, or whatever country you're in, European, whatever it is, somebody's trying to steal it, right? So those are going to step up, because if economies are depressed and there's less trade income, in other words, we don't have as many legitimate ways to make money, then just like in a recession or a depression, there's more crime. Well, same thing's going to happen now as businesses and countries have less ability to make income in a legal way. They're going to be switching to less ethical ways of making money. And that's going to be from people that turn from white hat hackers to black hat hackers. Who knows? Probably not, but that's an option. And then certainly with countries that maybe have state-sponsored terrorism or large, let's call them unsanctioned groups within countries that are really professional criminal hacking organizations. So there are mobs of organized crime that have, instead of sending people out on the street to shake down the local vendors, they're pooling their money and attracting top cyber hacking talent who work for corporations with good benefits, who do not very good things to other businesses and organizations. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of that. And I think it's probably going to increase significantly in the next short to maybe years.
Wow, it sounds like the backdrop to a movie, but it actually is real, and this stuff does happen. I think that's something that we don't always acknowledge, but thank you for opening. And that this happened this stuff was going on before this current pandemic, and now, from what I'm understanding as a summary, is if you do anything at all at this time in business, put a focus on your data, your security, the protection of that, because that, that could become a lifesaver over the next several months as business pressures increase.
Mm-hmm. And so let's talk a little bit about what a business specifically can do besides educate people, ask them to change their passwords on their home Wi-Fi, educate them about phishing scams. I certainly think that getting them to change their passwords on their user email and that kind of thing would be useful right now. Let's just talk about one small thing. Hey, a lot of people are confused about how phishing really works and why it's effective. Phishing's effective because they will go in and try to get your passwords for something, anything. It could be your Dunkin' Donuts loyalty card, okay? And what they do is they go in and from there they get an email address and a password combination, if they're lucky. They get a password combination. And most people, sadly, still use the same password or a core derivation of that for all of their systems, okay? So if you do that and they hack a small account, which, yeah, you don't really care too much about, they're taking that password user combination and then attempting to get into every single known system that they can. And they run giant programs where they test your email and your password that they stole from someplace else against Bank of America, Wells Fargo, TD Ameritrade, any known networks that you would be accessing. They're just going to do that over and over and over again in quick bursts, and not so much as to attract the attention to get a whole corporation to shut certain things down, but just enough to test the vulnerabilities. And one out of what, 100,000 they'll get in. That's how they're getting access. So changing those passwords that you use and making them unique to every site is really important right now. So let's talk about one other thing that is a big thrust for me in what I'm seeing as trends in the market and data, security and cybersecurity. If we think about the hacks that we hear about are really mass data breaches. Okay, would you agree?
Yep.
And mass data breaches are really an exercise in gaining access to data that's sitting within the moat and the castle walls, okay? So most data security that we have is related to the encryption of large amounts of data. And in order to access that data, you go through a gate, electronic gate, you gain access, and then all that data with that one access point is now all unencrypted for you and accessible. So we spend a lot of time as corporate leaders and CISOs and ISO and our InfoSec groups correcting the perimeter of the data. But if I find a way in through you, me, an employee, a spoof or real, or gain access to the credentials, I now have access to see all those data sets. And then I can download it and copy it, or copy it slowly and put it in a certain place, hide it, and then come back later and get it. So those types of activities are based on entire databases being exposed once folks gain access to that. And the only way to truly secure that is by not leaving your data at rest exposed as a mass amount of data. So that's where the concept of tokenization comes in, or pseudonymization. It's like, I think we should spell this across the screen. So pseudonymization means that we can see the data can behave, but unless you have very specific access to the records that you're allowed to have, then you cannot access the data. You certainly can't access large chunks of the data. And very few people in this day and age should have access to entire data sets. You see that in the ERP where they limit the output access. But what we don't realize is there are copies of our customer masters, copies of our employee data all over the place where we have other systems that are connecting and they retain that. The solution is to start protecting the data that's at rest so that it is sitting there and it is not necessarily your real data. Your real data is dispersed outside of the castle or inside of the castle or in other affiliated castles in a way that it cannot be accessed en masse and is unhackable per se. Okay.
Okay. So
Very important concept.
Got it. So it's like a jewelry store that at night they put the fake stuff out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So, and think of it like a coat check. And well, let's say that they did that, but they would have some tag that said the real stuff is here. We're going to hide that map that says where that is, and the real stuff where you think you're going in and hacking in is really the good stuff is useless data. So we've really become expert at how do you approach that within an organization, where the low-hanging fruit that would be the most dangerous, to lose, or the most valuable, and how do we protect that? And this is a great time to have those conversations, really, because you're not as busy. Typically, you're probably busy fighting off hackers if you're in the CISO group, but in terms of project management, it's a great time to have those conversations. So, looking at endpoint security, and even how can we protect the data that's going outside of the internet, through the internet to the remote people or to the other systems or to our partners? Those are under attack too. That's another area besides protecting data at rest, and that refers to data in transit. And we've become very adept at how do we protect that? How do we easily protect this so that as data is going out from outside the castle to another castle, like your trading partners, your customers that have your portal, how do we protect that quickly now to reduce our risk? Those are the kinds of things that people should be looking at. I'm happy to talk to anybody about some ideas and concepts and things that we've really had a good luck with in terms of being able to put in place in a quick and easy fashion. The other thing too that I wanted to mention was that it's a great time to be doing this, because it's a great time to be doing activity that requires you to look at your systems and how data flows through your systems, what data is inside your system. So there are two activities that I'd really like to see companies doing right now. We have a overall of assess, well, let's call it three. Assess, clean, and protect. Right now is a great time to be engaging your organization, maybe with help outside, maybe just internally, but looking at what systems do we have and what processes do we have right now, whether or not you're contemplating a project, in a project, or whatever. Great time to start this activity. Let's start doing our mapping exercises, map the systems we're using and the data that we're using. I'd also like people to start looking at cleaning. Cleaning can happen. You can clean your data, which is fantastic. What a great time. People are maybe not as busy with customer orders. You've been incentivized by the government through business loans to keep your employees retained. So when the economy comes back, you've got those folks ready to go, and you're not trying to hire them back from other employers. So what a better way to utilize them and keep them fresh and engaged is to start a data cleansing activity initiative that will help you to make your data better, improve your processes because you'll have cleaner data, and really stage yourself to be ready when you do start to move into those projects later on. You'll be moving in with cleaner data. Another activity that we're really getting a lot of phone calls about for today is just that. And while you've got the castle open, all the doors on the inside of the castle, looking at all your systems, that's the exact same activity that you would be looking at for a data security exercise as well. All right. So really makes sense to assess where you are, start looking at how you can clean your data. And while you're going into the doors and cubbies, cleaning data and looking at how your data systems are connected, let's start talking and examining how can you start to protect that. To go back in after you've shut everything up and hung everything back up and made it all look nice on the outside and stop that exercise of exploration and documentation, to go back in later and do this as a separate exercise is duplicate work, to be honest. So it's a super time to keep people engaged and make forward progress and protect the assets of your company.
Great idea. So assess, clean, and protect. Maybe we'll end on that, and we'd love to talk more. If you've got questions, would like to talk to Daryl or any of us, please reach out, let us know. We'll have some more sessions here coming up on what you can do right now in this current environment. But thank you, Daryl, very, very much. And thank you all. Have a good day.
All right, everyone, be well.